Welcome to Trailblazers and Coffee, your podcast for elevating women in leadership, with your hosts, Dr. Christina Pecora and Dr. Abby Brown.
Listeners, I'm so excited today to welcome colleague, fellow leader, and I'll let her introduce herself, Natalie Rose Dille. Yay! Natalie, since I am solo, everyone's just going to hear about, well, my questions, the direction that we want this to go through. But why don't you kick us off by telling our listeners about yourself in the way that you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. My name is Natalie. I go by Nat. I use any pronouns. So, you just get crazy with it. That's okay with me. It's about how you perceive me in the moment. And I am on this podcast, I think, because I am a psychologist. I'm in IPA, the Illinois Psychological Association, and I am, as I refer to myself, the top gay banana, which means that I am the chair of the sexual orientation and gender diversity section.
Yes.
So through that role, I coordinate doing all kinds of things. Right now, we're putting together a really awesome training in our Rooted in Respect series about transphobia, how to support our trans clients realistically. That's going to include some really special artistic elements from members of the community. It's going to be super duper rad. That is not the most important thing about me, though. I live a full life. I am an athlete. I am an artist. I am an entertainer, a performer. I'm a lover. Like, there are so many things that I do with my life. And I think as it's relevant to the podcast, I organize in some spaces. I'm pretty active with organizing in women, trans, and non-binary bicycle groups in the city. Mm-hmm. I also work with different people in the trans community for different events, putting on different things, connecting people who need to be connected. And generally, I think of my role in the community as the most important role that I hold, like full stop. And then, of course, I'm polyamorous. I have multiple partners, and that role is also extremely important to me. So, yes, I am a psychologist. I'm a therapist. I'm actually a business owner. I have a lot of hats that I wear, but I think the day-to-day hats of being in relationship and in community with the important people in my life are the most important roles for me.
That's so beautifully said, and such a fantastic summary of you as a whole person. And I have to say that, like in all of my interactions with you, you come off as a whole, genuine, authentic person who is quite honestly like just very happy to be in the space with other people. So that, like what you just said, reflects very accurately on my experience of you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And talk to me about, how important it is for you to show off this whole person to other people.
Well, you're talking about it as if it is a choice.
Fair enough.
I think being authentic to me is something that comes very naturally. Mm-hmm. And some of that is probably due to some neurodiversity stuff.
Sure.
And also it comes from like a really deep place inside of me that really wants to be seen and wants to be known and recognized for who I am. I really struggle with fakeness. I struggle with surface level interactions because I think most of the time what's happening around us and what's happening in our lives is really important to us. I recognize that any interaction that I can have in my life could be my last, and I want it to be something I can be proud of. I want it to be something that's authentic to me and really represents how I feel in that moment.
Mm-hmm. How did you come to that? Because that feels like a philosophy of life. How did you come to that?
Yeah, I guess I should have said I was a philosopher at the top, huh?
You can add it. You can always add it.
No, I came to that after the second election of Donald Trump. Plain and simple. That's I already knew we were in a dark timeline, but I
Hmm.
didn't know, like, even though I expected it, I didn't know exactly where it was going to go. And I had to make a decision at that point, and there were so many decisions that I made kind of in a row to do what was right by me,
Hmm.
to make myself and my community and the relationships that I had like joyful and meaningful,
Hmm.
and not worry so much about a lot of the other stuff. And so what I mean by that is like I've been through a lot of shit in my life. Um, I'm aware of what it's like to be affected by sudden traumatic loss. And I want the way I live the rest of my life to reflect my values
Hmm.
and to reflect what's really important to me. I don't think that there's a lot of value in waiting around to be able to live the way you want to live.
Hmm.
Because I know as a trans and gender diverse person that it's not guaranteed. Tomorrow's just not guaranteed. So
Hmm.
you have to live. Um, you have to live.
Hmm. And are you saying that you approach all of your interactions with authenticity because you feel like your way of life is under a threat, or you feel like your actual physical life is under threat?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to my actual physical life, that's not a decision that's always up to me.
Yeah.
As we found out so many times through violence against people who look like me
Hmm.
and people who have a loud mouth like me, this kind of stuff happens. People have to deal with things they never thought that they'd have to deal with.
Hmm.
And so I think about it as being under existential threat, Talking Heads, Life During Wartime.
Hmm.
You have to figure out a way to live that just allows you through that.
Hmm.
So, I mean, 100% of the time, it's not that I'm feeling like I'm in physical danger,
Hmm.
but it happens a lot. And certainly on a psychological, existential level, I know my people and a lot of people who think like me and care like me
Hmm.
are under serious threat of being even further oppressed and
Hmm.
locked out of important things.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in an incredibly sad time. Like you said, dark timeline, but also just it makes me incredibly sad. As somebody who is heteronormative, I feel a real sense of community and also of protection. But that's part of why we're here, right? Is to get this message out and to be another one of those bullhorns for why this is important and for the people who it affects.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to me about your advocacy in all of its many forms. Because I know you said you are an advocate, you're a member of the community, but also you are a leader in this bike group. So talk to me about what that looks like for you.
So, what is advocacy? Can advocacy just be living and trying to help things go
Yes.
in a good way?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I think of myself like the Dyson man from those vacuum commercials who just
Okay.
shows up and he's like, I just think things should work properly. And I'm like, that's me. That's me. When I see something, I say something or I try and do something about it. And again, some of that is just like neurodivergence. And some of that is like a strong sense of justice.
Hmm.
And so for advocacy for me, it's really just making sure that voices that need to be heard are heard,
Hmm.
especially if there's something really important they have to say.
Hmm.
I'll talk about my um, organizing through Fems and Thems.
Hmm.
Fems and Thems,
Hmm.
THEMS,
Thank you.
is a women, trans, non binary bicycle group in the city. We are quite large at this point.
Hmm. How large?
There, oh, we have had rides that have definitely had, I would say conservatively, 200 people
Holy cats.
during
Okay.
like peak seasons, but we've had rides that have had like eight. 13, depending on what kind of ride it is, where it's located, and more than anything, the temperature.
Sure, of course.
So it really depends on who's interested, who's going to show up that particular month. We do a lot of collaboration rides as well. And so, I'm not speaking on behalf of the group here. I want to make that clear. I was part of core leadership in the group for a year. So I was kind of at the top as far as the decision-making process. And I actually decided to step back because I was in a lot of leadership roles at the time. And I recognized that I felt I was being really stressed. That feels like such a straightforward way to say it. But like, I was very stressed out by the responsibilities of this group that I care a lot about. And there's a lot of planning and chatting and making executive decisions and trying to figure out how to bring other people into leadership to promote redundancy and make sure that things are done by the collective, or at least the collective's will is being embodied. And ultimately, with all the stuff I had going on in my life, I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a step back. So I don't speak on behalf of the group, but I speak as somebody who is honored to be a part of it. I marshal with them right now. I put my life on the line to make sure that people don't get hit by cars.
Oh gosh, what does that look like?
Well, so we'll do these monthly rides, monthly social rides, where we come out. There's a bunch of riders at a local business, often one that is run by a woman or somebody from another marginalized identity. We try to frequent Black-owned businesses for sure. Essentially, we start there. I give me or somebody else gives a safety speech about like what to expect riding on the road, because we do ride on the road, how to take the space, how to be safe, how to communicate with other people, just to keep the ride like as incident free as we can and make sure people develop that confidence over time. But the actual job of a marshal is to basically like, I think of myself like a working dog,
Okay.
like a Australian Shepherd or something, running around like nipping at people's heels, making sure everything gets to where it needs to go. And I take it very seriously. It means riding really fast. It means being on radio with everybody else in the ride, communicating from the front to the back, and recognizing when we go through like a really large intersection, how to block it off so that we'll go through in longer than one green cycle.
Okay.
And so we lock down the intersection with our bikes and our bodies so people can get all the way through.
Yeah.
Sometimes drivers get feisty, but we don't escalate with them. You can be correct about something and also recognize that somebody has a 2-ton steel box and you have a 25-pound steel frame bicycle.
Sure. Right.
But I'm happy to do that. I think it's, as somebody who does have able-bodied privilege and somebody who is athletic and has had some level of self-defense and de-escalation training, that's something I'm like uniquely suited to do. I'm happy to do it. I do it every time. Keeps my heart rate up. It's like interval training. And at the end, we all, kind of hang out and have a good time, usually at like a brewery or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. We will have to list Femmes and Them's website in the show notes in case anybody is hearing about it for the first time and is interested in
100%.
joining.
I'm happy to promote them. I think that they're an incredible organization and honestly one of my very favorite things I've been a part of in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That is really great. And then, you talked a little bit about having to step up and then step back in that leadership journey, and talk me through how you know that it's time to put some limits on yourself. And how do you decide to limit yourself?
How do I figure out when it's time to step back from leadership? Evaluating my own capacity.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a better way of saying it. Yes. Thank you for rewording my question.
I am a therapist. After all, we're trying to cut to the heart of it, bring it back, and see how you feel about it, what you're thinking, right? So the answer is that's actually a skill that is a real growth area for me.
Okay.
I am a chronic do too much-er. I'm always raising my hand. I'm always trying to get involved. And often it's not because, again, like I want to be in that position. It's that I just think, well, if nobody's going to do it, if you want something done right, it had to be me. Anyone else would have gotten it wrong. So for me, the question is really evaluating my capacity and recognizing how much time I literally have.
Mm-hmm.
because if it was up to me, I would be really active in all the spheres of my life all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have enough time in the day or the week to do that. And
Yeah.
my executive functioning was not the best. So I'm really trying to make that work. For me, I think how I came to step back from that position and think about stepping back and taking on less in other places is because I was forced to.
Mm-hmm.
I ran out of options. I ran
Mm-hmm.
out of time.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through a period of my life that I would say 2025 was the worst year of my life so far because there's always a new bottom. And I was dealing with um, unstable housing. I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of going between other people's places, didn't really have a place to be. I had started my own business. I was out of money. I was going through some really difficult interpersonal relationship stuff. And my mental health was quite poor, just
Mm-hmm.
extremely poor, um, because it was wearing away at me. It was really, I felt like I was being ripped in half and just struggling on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still chronically trying to do more stuff
Of course.
because that's the only way I knew how to live.
Yeah.
And it's my natural instinct. And I feel like it just makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
I keep doing this. And the people in my life who really care about me, who I really love, shout out to my partners and my close friends,
Mm-hmm.
were telling me in more and more insistent ways, you have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stop. I know you can make a difference. And I know maybe in an ideal world you could do this thing. Like I'm so cool that you have these goals for yourself, but you have to know that right now your goal has to be like living, like
Mm-hmm.
just making it to some level of stability in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to think of myself as someone who is, um, I mean this in every sense of the word, self-centered.
Sure.
But in this aspect, I wasn't where
Mm-hmm.
it really needed to count. And the relief I felt when stepping back from certain things or saying, no, I'm not interested in that. Sounds no, no, thank you for the invitation. No, I recognize. No, 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 no. But I have so much going on, just so it's yeah. And just turning people down feels bad every time because I see the potential they see,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not healthy. It's not sustainable. And I don't want to be in the place I was at last year again. I
Mm-hmm.
will be. I expect to be.
Sure.
But I want it to be different. I want to fail in an entirely new way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really welcome that failure. Huh.
Absolutely.
Sure. It sounds to me like, and this is probably more of a therapist question, but it kind of sounds to me like the overcommitting is part of the living life to the fullest and being present and recognizing that there is some kind of a threat to your existence or just living in that existential dread, and I have to do everything right now because of the times we live in or because of who I think I am as a person. And I think that that is an internal battle that so many women leaders fight within themselves.
100%. Um, I mean, there are so many tropes um, about moms stepping up into leadership positions,
Hmm.
um, women doing more in their household because they know that that work needs to get done. And for reasons that are often based in sexism and very poor, outdated divisions of labor,
Hmm.
they end up doing more.
Hmm.
But there's also just a sense of recognizing that if you want your life or the life of the people you care about, like your children, like your family, like your colleagues, you have to do it yourself.
Hmm.
And at least for me, not taking that responsibility is is almost painful sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Especially because I know there's not a lot of people like me. I mean, really, there's nobody like me. That's for a good, it's a good reason.
Yes.
But
Scream that from the back of the room.
yeah. So even if I can and I feel I should,
Mhm.
um, I have to look at both of those things. I have to hold the dialectic.
More therapy speech. I love it. Our poor listeners who are not therapists are just like, what are they talking about? And do me a favor and just define dialectic for those folks who are not therapists.
So it's about holding two conflicting viewpoints at once,
Hmm.
which is really, it's a simplified definition, but it's really the basis behind a lot of cognitive-based therapies
Hmm.
that are really effective for people who are dealing with disruptive interpersonal relationships
Hmm.
or struggling to live a life of necessity that also conflicts with their values.
Hmm.
Um, you can love someone and acknowledge that they've hurt you.
Yeah.
That's a very common dialectic to hold.
Hmm. It's so powerful and so important.
Mhm.
I want to go back to your one of your other labels and talk about how that has affected you as a person, but also as a leader. Your neurodivergence. You are very open about that experience for you and how it affects you in everyday conversation. But how has it shaped who you are as a woman and who you are as a leader?
That's a good question. So interestingly enough, I did not think of myself as being neurodivergent until about a year ago.
Mm,
I just thought I was a weird, quirky little guy living my life. And yeah, I certainly think differently than other people. I behave differently. I speak differently. I sure am into specific things sometimes.
mm,
Um, and I hadn't thought too much about it because for me, it's just normal.
mm-hmm.
And this story rings true for so many people who
Sure.
are discovering getting a formal diagnosis or self-diagnosis, which honestly is just as valid. I'm a huge
Hmm.
supporter of self-diagnosis.
Okay.
Um, Figuring out maybe I have ADHD, maybe I have executive dysfunction, maybe I have a little touch of the tism, you know? I need to figure out how to live my life in a way that acknowledges that reality because it's probably going to be better for me and everybody else.
Hmm.
Um, and although that was hard to hear because I have my own internal stigma, like even as a therapist, even as
Hmm.
somebody who primarily sees people who have some level of neurodivergence in the way that they think, it was still really hard for me to accept. But my partner suggested this, and I talked about it with friends, and the overwhelming response I heard was, "We thought you knew."
Oh.
Oh my God. Literally, we're all in this meeting and only one of us is on the floor. Like,
Oh.
it's you. Like, yes, absolutely. How
Mhm.
do you not know this about yourself? Which was very funny and deeply embarrassing.
Of course, of course.
So that's the origin story. But I recognize that for me, autonomy is everything.
Mm.
I have really strong PDA, which I'll define for our listeners here, which some people will call pathological demand avoidance. Others will say it is a persistent desire for autonomy.
Mm.
But realistically, it's describing a construct where, like, it's a fuck you, I won't do what you tell me.
Hmm.
It's saying that because you want me to, or because I feel like I'm being forced to, because I feel my agency is being threatened,
Hmm.
I am not going to do that thing, or I'm going to
Hmm.
resist doing that thing, or I'm going to resent doing that thing. And that's like a pretty strong manifestation of what autonomy really looks like and leads to a lot of like significant consequences in my life.
Yeah.
Like it means that there are some ways I don't do things that would be helpful for me.
Hmm.
I don't listen to people when they're really having like a great idea that I should get on board with. it's a lot of checking my biases and recognizing, am I pushing back against this because I'm mad I didn't have that idea, or because I don't want to do that, or because of any other reason, or is it like a bad idea? Is there something that's actually, about its merits that's an issue? And so I function really well in teams and groups where people trust me to do my own thing, and where I get to decide how I want to bring something up and get into it. And I also do a lot better in places that have a very direct style.
Okay.
So I know this is very true about myself. I say what I mean. I appreciate being in spaces where people send the email even though it's imperfect. They just raise their hand and say the thing. Those are the spaces in which I feel really seen, because it empowers me to do the same thing. I don't want to have a 40-minute meeting about potentially setting up another meeting. Can we agree on doing one thing right now? Calling out something, saying, hey, that actually hurt. I didn't like that. Why did you do that? Explain yourself. And it can be very confrontational. It goes against a lot of norms of polite behavior and what's expected. Mom, I'm so sorry. Legitimately, there are big differences in how I was raised. I was raised to be a very nice young man, and now look at me. But that's a big part of it, is recognizing that I'm going to resist a lot of things, communicating directly, and knowing that when I'm in spaces that value those same things and expect people to be their own agents and have their own knowledge, I do a lot better.
Sure. When you find yourself in environments that don't have those expectations, what do you do?
Have a bad time. I mean, that's the first thing.
Yeah. Leave, maybe?
Sometimes leave, yeah. Maybe a better, more constructive answer to that question is try and step back internally and recognize what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it. Sometimes it is okay to let something happen that feels deeply wrong. Yes. And that's actually a really essential skill. People make inefficient decisions. People make bad decisions. Sometimes the people who are making the decisions are really unqualified or incompetent. I mean, look at our country, look at our world, right?
Right.
It's like, you don't have the ability to step in. Systems exist. They're in place. And where it's possible for me to make an influence, yeah, sure. But if I'm in positions that don't support that kind of autonomy, that don't support that kind of directness, I do what I can, and I just inhibit myself. A lot of communicating directly with the people who fuck with me, and I mean fuck with in like a positive sense.
Okay.
Yes, I need to say that. And also just giving myself permission to do less, let it happen.
Because this sounds like the PDA in specifically sounds like it would be great as a leader. So, right, like as the chair of a committee, because you're very driven to do the things that you feel like are the right and the good things, and you're asked to make the choices about the direction in which you're going. Being a member of a group and not the chair sounds like that might be harder for you. So, how do you navigate that?
I try to focus on listening first. I try not to be the first person who raises their hand, and not to be the person who automatically tries to lead the discussion. I actually struggle in a lot of ways where, especially in large groups or in groups that have less focus, perhaps, like a really open-ended assignment that goes to 12 people, for me is my worst nightmare, especially if they're all talking over each other. I have a very hard time speaking in that environment. So unless there's a chat function, I will just sit and listen, and I'll put together my thoughts into the one thing I really want to say. I'll say it, and then I know that is the most that I can do. It's about letting go and recognizing that I'm one person. I don't have that specific role.
Yeah. But also
And
finding the
yeah.
opportunity where you can step in and make a statement and make,
hmm
like a point or a difference.
Sometimes that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I want to make this very clear that I'm not saying everything I do is right.
Or
That my idea comes first or needs to come first.
hmm
As a white person, I'm quite aware, as a white person who's assigned male and presents with a certain mask energy,
uh-huh.
um, despite the the effects of HRT.
hmm
Like, I'm very aware of that. And when I'm not aware of that, it's a time for reflection and doing better. Most of the time, I am listening.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. In terms of navigating leadership in your life in general, what was the best piece of advice someone gave you to get through all of this?
At the very first APA convention
Mm,
I went to, I really did not know what to expect. And I met another therapist there who had a more fluid identity. So I
mhm,
saw myself in this person. And so I specifically talked to them after their presentation and looked for a little time to sit down with them and talk about career stuff. This is really the most important part for me of conventions is the personal connections that I can make and grow. That, and they're really fun.
mhm.
It's also an excuse to travel. So
Yeah.
yeah. And this person was Molly Fector Leggett, who at the time was working in West Virginia as the dark clouds were beginning to gather
Mm,
about legislation and the state of rights in that state.
mhm,
Um, and Molly told me, so, you know, you got to ask yourself, are you ready to be, or do you want to be a professional queer?
mm,
And I was like, that's such a funny question.
mhm,
Obviously, I'm queer and I'm a professional. Like, I'm working on getting my degree or working on getting my licensure. I'm in postdoc.
sure.
This, that's just something that's going to happen by default.
Mhm,
And they were like, that's not actually what I mean.
mhm,
What I mean is you can be a professional person, but not hitch your professional identity to your queerness.
mhm,
You can be a psychologist who sees people and focuses on dealing with trauma,
mhm,
focuses on ADHD, focuses on assessing a geriatric population.
mhm.
It doesn't have to be that. Like,
Right.
being queer can be a fact about you and
Mhm,
maybe something you bring into your work to some degree, but it doesn't have to be like your brand.
mhm.
And that really shook me.
Sure.
I was incredibly surprised to think about it as a choice.
Yeah.
That was really important for me to think about as my caseload started to grow. And I
Mhm,
recognized so many people were self selecting to see me because they saw that common identity.
mhm,
Some of that is due to the significant limitations of the Psychology Today platform.
mhm.
That's a really nice way to say
Yes.
that it sucks in some ways
Uh-huh.
for actually allowing psychologists and other therapists to market themselves. It sucks less for psychologists, I'll tell you that much. To
Mhm.
be a non-binary psychologist, it actually fed me referrals
Mm,
because people were able to filter by me.
sure.
And it was a very, I think there's, last time I checked, there were like 7
Okay.
in the Chicagoland area.
Wow. That's it.
Yeah, and I know
Okay.
3 of them.
Okay.
So
That's
it's
surprising to me. Wow. Okay.
yeah, well, but there's a lot of non-binary master's clinicians, and
hmm
I think in many ways master's clinicians are better than psychologists at what the work that they do. I have tremendous respect for them. So, regardless of this little tangent here, I had to decide. Well, I'm watching my caseload become filled with these, I don't know, 18 to 26-year-old queer people who are getting out of college and figuring out what they're going to do for their career or navigating early transition stuff, looking into their first breakup with their first same-sex boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
and figuring out like, is this what I want to hitch my business to?
Mm-hmm.
And calling back to what I said earlier about like how authenticity for me is something that comes naturally and is difficult to turn off, I decided, yeah, I do want to be a professional queer. There
Mm-hmm.
just aren't people like this in the field. And I have an opportunity to elevate my voice and the important things I have to say and to influence people, to help people on their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
So when I do supervision, which has become a huge part of my life, and I think honestly, maybe a bigger calling to me than therapy,
Yeah.
um, I ask that question of the queer supervisees I have.
Mm-hmm.
And it hits them the same way it hit me. Shout out Dr. Fector Leggett. I believe that they're a doctor, but shout out Molly. That
Mm-hmm.
was really, really, really important to me when I heard it. And it's advice I bring forward to all the people I work with.
For sure. It sounds like it was incredibly revolutionary just to make that a choice for you. Can you reframe it, for those people who don't necessarily have like they are binary? How would you reframe it so that they can also see that they have a choice? Or are they already so privileged that they just don't need that advice?
Interesting. Well, I think there's this larger conversation about personal branding and trying to succeed in a field that has become increasingly dominated by AI, venture capital, all kinds of things that have been talked about by some amazing guests. I don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You, as a therapist, are selling yourself.
Mhm.
And it is so weird. And you need to decide what image of yourself you're going to put forward.
Mhm.
If for you, being a mother or being having had like a previous career is really important to the way that you bring yourself forward, you can talk about that. You can bring that part forward. And also know that you open yourself up to perhaps more criticism. You open yourself up a little bit more in the self disclosure field for that. But sometimes it can be really, really important because it brings clients to you. This
Mhm.
is me giving business advice, I guess.
Love it. Yeah,
Um,
it's great.
yeah, and so there's always something about you. But the thing is, if you fail to differentiate yourself, which shouldn't be a problem at all, like you should be able to be gainfully employed. People find you based on goodness of fit.
Mhm.
That's totally fine. But unfortunately, you'll need other resources. You'll need to connect with other therapists. There are the aspects that make you more unique from others, regardless of what kind of identity that is, will need to be thought about individually as whether or not they're things that you want to bring into your identity professionally.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think that the main point is just that you have a choice of what you let shine, and you shouldn't feel pigeonholed simply by what you look like or who you are. Yeah.
Wow, what a great restatement and summary.
Thank you. I've been doing this for a while too. Now, Natalie, I have to go backwards a little bit because in fine Christina being solo fashion, I forgot to ask you our two first questions. What's in your cup today?
I'm so glad you asked that, Christina. I'm going to give our listeners a little ASMR. Those are ice cubes floating around in I guess this would be a whiskey glass. It has a
Mhm.
little skull engraved into the bottom.
Nice.
Yeah, I found this on the sidewalk. Like, you're coming home with me.
Yeah.
I'm drinking Coke Zero
Nice.
on the rocks.
Good choice. Good choice for a day like today. Sadly, I didn't even remember to bring my own water. I'm drinking the little 8-ounce bottles of water that I give to clients today because that's how I left to get to the office on time. Yeah, no planning. Sometimes we cannot plan forward. What
Yeah.
is your mood today? And here at Trailblazers and Coffee, we express our moods through our blazers. So what's your blazer mood today?
I deliberated extensively about this, Christina. I need new blazers because my
Oh,
body has changed
yes,
and I don't fit into the clothes I used to fit into. This is
sure.
a neutral statement. Um, I I'm wearing a gray blazer today with a very exciting shirt underneath that has these patterns of kind of like abstract
Yeah.
cubist style.
Oh, I see a face. Yeah.
Yes, they're
Uh-huh.
all faces. Yeah, they're
Nice.
faces perhaps of women.
Love.
Who could
Love,
say?
love, love.
This blazer for me is a connection to my past.
Hmm.
My mom bought this for me when I was, I think, just beginning graduate school.
Oh, wow.
And so this was me. I didn't transition until I was in my internship year, and I didn't really like have my egg cracking moment, aka when you're like you come out to yourself and recognize,
Mhm.
shit, I got to do something about this. Like
Yeah.
I can't live this way,
Mhm.
which happened in the pandemic, many such cases.
Of
So
course.
I was a man at the time. My mom helped me pick this out, and it's just a gray blazer. I think it's from Bonobos.
Okay.
Shout out Bonobos. It is one of like the remnants of my clothing that call back to my time as identifying as a man.
Yeah.
And it still fits me really well. It's a neutral piece, and I've done some performance art lately that involves wearing this particular blazer. And the
Amazing.
ability to still layer some chains, get on
Mhm.
some jewelry, and throw like something fun pattern underneath. It's like the perfect counterpoint to the rest of the outfit, but it still reminds me of who I was in a way that feels like familiar and safe.
I love that. Thanks so much for bringing that here. Like it sometimes in our episodes we just assume, right? Like as psychologists, that it makes sense for us to use blazers as a projective for our mood. And we don't tend to go into a lot of explanation. But I think that your explanation is the epitome of what we're looking for here at Trailblazers and Coffee.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even wearing a blazer today. Again, the speed at which I left my home. But I'm in a light sweater because it is like a 50-degree day outside and it feels like it could be 70 because that is Chicago in the spring. And it's lovely and we're going to enjoy it, but I was definitely not
It
feeling.
is closer to 70 than you think. It's 68 degrees.
Shut the front door. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes. Oh, yes. We are at the peak here at whatever mystical hour we're taping this.
Well, I got to open the window then here in my office as soon as we're done. Is there anything else that I didn't ask today that you wanted to mention, talk about, make a point about, Natalie?
Yeah, let me drop a couple resources. So
Okay.
I really want to boost understanding of and use of the Transformative Justice Legal Project.
Okay.
This is an organization that has helped so many people change their name, get their birth certificate amended, get like a social security card or driver's license in their name. And they're amazing. They're based here in Illinois. They do like different walk-ins and pop-up clinics. Some of the most like dedicated, hardworking like attorneys that
Yeah.
I've ever met that do it for free.
Mm.
And they really hold your hand through the whole process. I felt like I literally, the day after Trump won the second time, I was like, we're Natalie now. Let's pull
Yeah.
the trigger.
Hmm.
And they were the ones who helped me with that. Also, I want to shout out all of the DIY networks in
Okay.
Chicago, all of the mutual aid networks in Chicago that are based in caring for queer people, caring for
Mhm.
trans and gender diverse people specifically. My clients always tell me, they say, I'm so worried, like, what if I lose access to healthcare? And
Hmm.
I tell them, listen, just ask around. I mean this, if you know a couple dolls, you can get access to what you need. And there are entire networks of people that are supporting each other with clothing swaps. I got this through a clothing swap.
Nice.
through clothing swaps, through DIY medication, through low-cost binders and other gender-affirming pieces of clothing that are really necessary for people with dysphoria in different areas. If you don't know what those networks are, you should. Find out how you can help. Ask a trans person in your life. Don't be weird about it, but like
What would be weird?
there are ways. There are so many ways that you can help people outside of the formal systems that are in place. And to be honest, these are the systems I have the most faith in.
Sure. That's great. We will get some links from you, and we will put them in the show notes and highlight those as places that people can start if they don't know different organizations in the Chicago area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Awesome. Natalie, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here on Trailblazers and Coffee with us today. Yeah, any last notes?
No, thanks for having me. I feel very honored to be chosen as a guest, and it was wonderful to talk with you today, Christina.
Absolutely, Natalie. We'll have you back sometime to give us an update, okay?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Hello, and here we have today's coffee break for the brain. This is your co-host, Abby Brown, and I wanted to tell you a bit about an article that I read from the University of Michigan, Michigan's Medicine website about how to manage politically induced stress right now. More than ever, we are in such a difficult political environment, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. We need to be aware of the symptoms that we can experience, both mental health wise and physical, around the topics. And so I wanted to just briefly give you a synopsis of the article and the suggestions that the author is recommending. So we want to be aware of signs of political fatigue. And, the reality is that we can experience some health issues, higher blood pressure than normal, weight changes, drastic mood changes, sleep issues. And so here are 5 ways that you can reduce politically induced stress, or at least, even minimize them to some degree. So we always want to be aware of how much time we're spending on social media, news outlets involving political content. So as soon as you wake up in the morning, are you looking at Instagram? Are you checking your news feed? Perhaps just consider taking a beat and engaging in some other practices and routines before diving into that. We want to be mindful of our surroundings when sharing opinions. Be aware of who's around you, what their political views might be. Are these folks that are more or less open to differences in opinion? Are you around like-minded people? We want to be open to learning about other points of view, right? So on the political spectrum, there are nuances, there are very different perspectives. So considering hearing perhaps some different vantage points would be useful and of interest to you. And sometimes we learn something that we didn't expect. The next one is to, at times, step away from conversations. Be aware of what's going on in your body. Is your blood pressure going up? Are you feeling that cortisol running through you? Are you starting to feel panicky? Right? So we want to be aware there may be times we need to step away. And finally, self-assess your interest. So do you want to be someone that's politically active or engaged? Do you want to be fully immersed in it? Know what the physical and mental health effects are on you and keep that in mind. It is so important to be engaged. And if you choose to do that, be aware and take good care of yourself in the meantime.
For more information on today's guest, check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks for joining us.